All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. Now let's get to the discussion that matters most to you. It's about the money that comes to your counties. There's a standoff by the mediation team. In fact, it collapsed completely. There's now a new bill that's going to come up again on the Division of Revenue bill. We're calling it the Division of Revenue divide.
Right.
And the senators want 327 billion shillings. The National Assembly suggests 316 billion. The standoff collapsed the entire process.
And before we get to mince that specific part, Senator Ledama, let me give you a chance to also get your reaction on how Kenyans are supposed to respond to this early 2022 politics before we jump into the Division of Revenue bill.
I think I'd want to change your conversation to say, what can we do to be able to shift from 2022 to now more focus on development? I think the media can play a critical role. You see, the problem we have in this country is that the media is so sensational. And Kenyans are also expecting that, you know? So if someone is expecting something, you give it to them. If the media can stop covering this kind of divisive politics and focusing on success stories to say, Mheshimiwa Oluoch in Mathare constituency, what is it that you've done with your CDF money? Just like what the president was saying. Let's go there and focus on these success stories. Kenya will start thinking on issue-based politics, just like the gentleman on Twitter said, rather than focusing on what is sensational. So the media can play a very critical role. Number two, the members of the National Assembly can also now really start working on their CDF money they're given. And the public also should be outraged. Anytime when someone comes in and starts talking politics, you know, they should be starting asking questions like, what have you done for us? So it takes two to tango. Yeah. You know, the members of the National Assembly have got to fulfill their obligation and their duty with the taxpayers' money that they are given to be able to develop their constituencies. Then also, the public has got to start demanding these things. You know, when you start talking about 2022, you are bashed off. Hatutaki siasa, we want development. That is what is going to take this country away. And that is why I am one of the few people who believe that we should completely now change the narrative. You know, we should go out there and campaign on issue-based politics. We do an audit of, you know, if it's in Narok County, we have six constituencies. So in these constituencies, we need to go out there and say, this is what we have done in these constituencies. You know, we don't want this issue of where we are always just talking about 2022, we are divided between ODM and Jubilee, or maybe the opposition and Jubilee. We really have to now start doing an audit. Because the problem we have out there is that members of the public do not know who has got money allocated to them by the government, or rather by parliament. Is it a senator? Is it a member of the National Assembly? Or is it an MCA? Is it a governor? So we really need to start changing this so that we see how we can be able to progress as a country.
Okay.
And now if you allow me, I can probably go straight into the other issue.
Yes.
Getting into this issue of division of revenue, it is something that the country ought to be outraged. You know, they really ought to be upset. Because I would have thought that members of the National Assembly, by the extent that they come from counties, they should be fighting for more money to go to the counties. There's this argument that there's a lot of corruption in the counties. Granted, there's also a lot of corruption in the national government. We were not happy with the way the money was being divided into going to counties. Because you cannot justify saying, I'm going to add 10 billion to NYS, yet you've never solved any single corruption of NYS. You know, what county governments were asking for, or rather what we were asking for on behalf of the county governments, because my role as a senator is not to go there and build a classroom, but my role is to be able to defend the interests of the counties and their government.
So
it's for me to be able to send more money. So we were saying, give us at least this other 10 billion. You know, you cannot just outrightly go and say, we are adding NIS another 10 billion, we are adding NYS 10 billion, and
what
then
are you
we're taking
basing
money
that
away
demand
from.
on?
Now, you see, everything has got to be based on something.
Yeah.
For us, the way we look at it is that we have institutions in these countries which are paid for by taxpayers' money, commissioned, to be able to determine. The process of budgeting in this country is very, very simple. We start by the budget policy statement. You are given recommendation by the Commission of Revenue Allocation. They look at various factors. They look at the core inflation rate. They also look at the inflation rate average of 3 years for this country. And they look at the base. How much was given to our counties the previous year?
Yeah.
In the previous year, we were given 314 billion. Treasury and the National Assembly with their trickiness and their mediocrity, or whatever you can call it, decided to violate the Constitution. And Oloch will tell you, Article 229 of the Constitution is very clear, that whenever you divide money and you send money to the county governments, you cannot then come and deduct that money. Okay. You know, they are protected.
So, Senator, how do you justify rather more money for counties if indeed you've already admitted that this theft, most of the theft that is happening is on county level? So how do you justify asking for more money for counties?
I'll put it this way. I'll justify asking for more money for counties because there's no way you can tell me that you devolve a function. The Constitution is very clear. A function which has been devolved, the constitutional mandate of fulfilling that function is by that level of government. Health, as an example. Health is devolved. But do you know that the budget given to the health ministry, the Ministry of Health, is equivalent to money allocated to 9 counties? They are given 47 billion shillings. 47 billion shillings. Yet, health is devolved. Yeah. If you look at a county like Murang'a, they're only given 5 billion. So you take 9 of those counties, it is equal to the amount of money being left in Nairobi, yet the functions are in the county government. So you keep on asking, people keep on asking there, we have no medicines in our hospitals are not built, the services are dilapidated. We had a big example of Kirinyaga, but I'm not justifying the dirtiness, but I'm just saying services are not there because you cannot devolve a function and leave the money behind. You know, so you asked me clearly, and I just want to finalize by saying, we have a process that we follow. Then the CRA recommended, which is the same thing that the senators did. They said, add the senators 21.7 billion. From the 314, you bring it to 335. Yeah. We looked at the figures which were being given to the national government. We said there's no point and simple justification of adding 10 billion to NYS. Why should you add 10 billion to NYS? Now, look at to add injury more into, what is it now? What is insult. To insult, look at the budget that Rotich came up with. How do you justify giving 400 and something billion to that, what do you call it? That housing project by the president? Yeah. How do you justify that?
Part of the big
four agenda.
The big four agenda. So really, you have to figure out and say, what process should we use to give more money to counties? Okay. What should we give more? We cannot keep on saying the economy is growing. The economy is growing. Every year, everyone will tell you, from the Ministry of Finance, or rather Treasury, they will tell you our economy is growing. Yet, they are not sending money to the counties. Okay. How do you justify that?
Honorable Lodge, you're not part of the mediation team, but what do you make of this entire standoff? The budget itself has a deficit of 607 billion shillings, and that is based on a premise that KRA will manage to collect 2.2 trillion shillings, which they might not. So this deficit might even go higher. How do you justify giving more money to the counties? And the difference is 11 billion.
First of all, I want to say that, Parliament is a budget-making house. So it's really the role of Parliament to do this. And the Constitution has prescribed that every year the issue of division of revenue shall be determined. Senate sets out the criteria under which we do that, and then it comes to the National Assembly. I am not myself persuaded that corruption should be used as a basis for us to advance an argument that let's not give money to the counties. For the simple reason that corruption is there both at national and county government. In any case, if you look at the amount of money that is set aside, that is controlled by the national government, of our 3-point-something trillion shillings budget, close to about 85% of that is controlled by the national government. If you take into account that every year we lose 30%, then of our money to corruption, then the argument that we should stop putting more money somewhere because of corruption should work the other way around in respect of the national government and the amount of money that we lose to the national government. So for me, the division of revenue and giving more money is amount of it's a question of the constitutional progression. The more money that we collect and the more money that we have within the exchequer, the more money we need to be able to give to the county. The question as to how we are able to deal with the issues of corruption are things that we can leave to institutions that we set up. We have the EACC, we have anti-corruption, we have DPP, And we also have the control of budget and the IFMIT system that is able to control issues to do with expenditure. And I think that's where the argument should end. The question as to money and how much money should go is a directive of the Constitution itself.
Yeah.
You cannot, and if you look at Article 217, it says, it does not put corruption, that take into account the following, and then says, if counties are said to be corrupt, then please don't give them more money. There is no such criteria. It says that in looking at the division of revenue and how much money should go, among other things, the Senate will be able to look at the criteria set at Article 203. And Article 203, among other things, it talks about national interest. It talks about the debt. So let's take away the debt. It talks about the public interest and public participation. It talks about the needs of to ensure that both levels of government are able to operate and to be able to function. So I think looking at it within these parameters, there's only one thing else that I want to add, that we must remove this argument and or perception that it is the preserve of the Senate to try to ensure that the county government operates. County government is in the interest of both houses of parliament and of the entire nation that it works. Yeah. And so that, in my view, going forward, this stalemate is unhelpful for anyone. It is not helpful for the national, for the Senate. It is not helpful for the National Assembly. If you're going to generate another division of revenue bill and you're going to try to solve this thing, I would like to suggest that we have talks about talks. Yeah. Before we even put this down, let there be an informal meeting of the leadership of the House and try and solve this thing. Because the moment we go there and we have these ego things about, and I think a lot of these ego things have to do with which is the upper house, who controls what, and who's going to bow down first. I think these two houses, in terms of their leadership, should have an in-house, have a sitting. Yeah. And try to thrash out. I mean, what's the difference? It's about 20, how much billion? 11 billion. Yes, surely we can argue out, like he's saying, if you're putting money to some programs in government, and those programs can be able to be scaled down for one reason or the other, so that we are able to. And if we can,
those who are arguing that the counties should be able to also collect their revenue and meet their targets.
Yes, they should be able to collect, but unfortunately, when I look at the Constitution, that's not one of the criteria that have been put there in terms of how much money we should. They collect money, yes, but it's not one of the issues that we put in our Constitution, that in dividing money, we shall take into account the amount of money that the county government
I think there are two provisions of the Constitution. Yes. I think it's Article 216(3) C, which encourage fiscal responsibility. That's one of the very important one. Article 201 DE, prudence and effective use of public funds. Those two encourages people to be able to raise more on-source revenue. And I think the issue of money going into the counties. If you look at Article 202 of the Constitution and Article 203 that my colleague has just spoken about, Article 202 is very clear. Money has got to be divided equitably, you know. And then Article 203 is the one that gives them even more work. If you look at the money which is now being used to divide money, or rather the audited financial statement, it is back in 2014. The National Assembly has got piles of national audited financial statement that they have to adapt, so that we know currently in 2017 how much money did we actually raise, so that we can be able to divide this money equitably.
So this bill is coming back again in Parliament, probably sponsored by Majority Leader. Are you going to cede any ground?
No, I think, you see, let me put it this way. I like what Mheshimiwa Oluoch said. You know, let us be pragmatic. Let us look at what it is. You know, if you look at the figures, if you look at the 2017-2018, the national government budget, if you see, like, let's say, for instance, medical equipment, you know, that figure in 2017-2018 was 6.1 billion. It is now 9.4 billion. You know, I understand financial management 101. When it comes to leasing, the amortization goes down. It doesn't always increases. But in this case, you see, it is increasing more. If you look at the figure given to, let's say, for instance, what other? Which one have they added? Let's say, even on, I think the figures that you have there. If you look at the issues of NYS, they have added by more than 100%.
So, Senator,
But you still haven't answered my question.
So ask
this
your question.
bill comes back again. Are you
When
going
the
to cede
bill
any
comes back
ground, or
together,
are you
and that's what I'm
maintain
saying,
your position?
it's not about ceding ground, it is about being factual. You know?
and this is in 6 months when you kickstart it again?
No. He will publish it immediately this week.
Yeah.
That's what he promised to do. I mean, it's his on us prerogative. I'm not worried so much because county government will still continue getting, money on based on program. So that they get at least up to 50% of their money. But you see, let us be realistic. Do we want to kill counties or do we want them to continue growing? And we really want our counties to grow. And we have to continue fighting for more money to go to the counties.
So your position as senators remain the same?
The position is very simple. Give us facts. What is it that you're doing? Let us break the numbers. You cannot come and tell us, no, your mandate is only limited to looking at one column, the money which is being sent to the county governments. Yet, you don't want me to understand how did you come about that amount of money.
Yeah.
If you have a conversation with the Treasury, and particularly the Cabinet Secretary for Treasury, he will tell you people need to look at this division of revenue based on Article 203 of the Constitution. I will also tell him the same thing. Article 203 is very clear. You have to give counties money for them to be able to perform their functions.
Senator, some feel, especially critics who say that the mediation on the division revenue bill for 2019, the drama that we saw last week, that was to buy time for the budget reading that we saw.
Well, some would argue that. But as a member of that committee, my argument is very simple. At some point I felt the same, that these people just want to push us so that they can be able to do what? Have us agree so that they can be able to do what? And read the budget. Because like I said from the onset, the process is very simple. You have the budget policy statement, so you know how are you going to divide the money. Then you go into the division of revenue. And then after the division of revenue, then you go and do the budget estimates and appropriation bill. Now, if the National Assembly passes the budget estimate and appropriation bill and the president signs it, it will become illegal. Because what is it that you're appropriating? What money are you appropriating that you do not have? You've not been given that money. So the most neater aspect is this. We are done with the budget estimates. We know what it is. Now let's go to the division of revenue. Let us agree. Let us use facts. Let us look at, if the economy is growing, let us now look at the core inflation. How much money can we really give to the counties? In our position, we are saying at minimum should be 327 billion because of everything that we've looked at. And then once we finish that and we agree, and we can actually agree very fast once the process is done, because you said the budget, the new bill will be published, it goes through public participation, it finishes National Assembly, it comes to the Senate. Once it comes to the Senate, we go through the same process. If we agree with what the majority leader would have published, then at that point, of course, we'll pass the bill and it will go to the president, it will go back to the National Assembly, goes to the president and becomes a law.
All right.
Okay? But we cannot we cannot jump one critical step to be able to get to the second step.
Yeah. You spoke about, speaking about financial statistics, and there's a proposal to have this on a zero-based budget. We'll come to that in just a bit when we come back, and you'll tell us why that is a concern, and also Honorable will come in on that. But let's take a quick break here. On Daybreak, the hashtag we're using is Daybreak. The question we asked you earlier, should more money be allocated to the counties? We'd like to hear from you, 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya, at Trevor Mbija, at Zinzi K. We'll sample some of your views at the end of this discussion when we come back from the break.